You don't need a break. And I know that sounds wrong because if you're listening to this right now, there's a good chance you feel tired, not just physically tired, but mentally tired, emotionally tired, internally tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix, the kind of tired that follows you even when everything is quiet. You finally sit down, you finally get a moment. Instead of feeling peace, your mind just keeps moving. You're replaying conversations, thinking about what's next, carrying things that haven't even happened yet. And you start to realize this isn't just about needing rest. This is something far deeper. And here's the truth that I had to face in my own life: a break won't fix what your daily life keeps recreating. You can take a day off, you can take a weekend off, you can even take a vacation. And for a moment, you might feel better, but then you come right back to the way you were thinking before, back to the same pace, back to the same pressure, back to the same patterns. And before you know it, you're right back where you started, tired again. You're overwhelmed again. You're trying to catch your breath again. Because the problem isn't that you don't rest. The problem is your life isn't built in a way that sustains rest. And until that changes, you will always need to escape your life. I think that's incredibly sad that you have to escape your life just to recover from it. Guys, I want to welcome you to the Shepherd's Tent with Mark Casto, a place for weary leaders to remember who they are. Guys, this podcast is for leaders, not just pastors, but business owners, entrepreneurs, creators, parents, people who carry responsibility, people who care deeply, people who want to build something meaningful without losing themselves in the process. And if you've been tracking with me over the last past few episodes, you know we've been walking through a journey together. In episode 1, we talked about the moment that everything cracks. And then that's the moment when you realize I'm not okay, even though everything on the outside looks fine. And then in episode 2, we jumped into where we talked about the vineyard within, how you can tend everything around you while neglecting what's happening inside you, and how eventually that neglect begins to catch up. Then in episode 3, we took a moment to zoom out. We talked about pace and how many of us have been formed by a system that pushes us faster, actually, than we were designed to live. And if you don't recognize that, you will live your entire life at a speed that slowly drains you. But today, we have to answer the real question, okay? Not just what's wrong, but how do I actually change this? Because awareness is super powerful, but awareness alone does not transform your life. You can recognize the problem and still stay stuck in the same patterns. You can see what's wrong and still keep living the same way. And eventually, what that's going to do in you is just continue to create frustration because now you know better, but you're still experiencing the same thing. So today, we're going to move beyond awareness and move on from awareness to actual action, not complicated action, not overwhelming change, but practical shifts that will begin to reshape your life because you don't need more information. You need a new way of living. And guys, most leaders treat rest like it's an event. It's something that unfortunately we schedule on our calendars because we know we're going to go into an exhausting season of life. And so we start saying things like, I'll rest this weekend, or I'll rest after this project, or I'm going to put this thing on the calendar once I see that some things have slowed down. And again, on the surface, that sounds reasonable, but it's built on a faulty assumption. It assumes that your exhaustion is caused by a lack of rest. But I've got a bigger question for you. What if your exhaustion is actually being produced by the way your life is structured? Because here's the reality, guys: your life is not built on events, it's built on patterns. It's built on what you do every single day without thinking about it. Your habits, your responses, your rhythms. And if those patterns are built on pressure, no amount of occasional rest is going to fix it. You can take a break, but guys, you're going to return back to the same system. And that system will recreate that same exhaustion over and over and over again. And that's why people take vacations and come back more stressed than when they left for vacation because nothing actually changed. They paused the pressure, but they didn't remove it. We step away from the system, but we didn't take the time to rebuild something completely different. And guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, until you rebuild it, you will always be managing symptoms instead of solving the real problem. Guys, the reason why I can talk about this is something I had to face in my own life because there was a time where I thought the solution was simple. Just slow down, take a break, catch your breath, step away for a bit. And I tried that and it worked for a moment. I'd feel better. I got clarity of thought. I felt more at peace, more at rest. But then I would step back into my life and everything would return the same pace, the same pressure, the same internal tension. And I remember thinking, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep ending up in the same place? And guys, that question forced me to go deeper, not just into my schedule, but into my structure, not just into what I was doing, but into how I was living. And I realized something that really changed everything. The issue wasn't that I didn't know how to rest. The issue was I had built a life that constantly required recovery. And that's a very different problem. Because if your life requires constant recovery, then rest becomes survival, not sustainability. And guys, that's where many leaders are living right now. They're not living from rest, they're recovering from exhaustion over and over again. And that's not the life that you and I were designed to live. So, guys, I want to kind of go into this shift in thinking and get us to start thinking in terms of rhythms. Okay. So if the problem isn't that you just need more rest, and we realize that the real problem is actually the patterns of our lives, then the question becomes what actually shapes those patterns? Okay. And the answer is simple, but incredibly powerful. You ready? I've already said it. Rhythms. Not big moments, not occasional breaks, not one time decisions, rhythms. The repeated, often unnoticed patterns that shape your life over time. Because here's the truth, guys, your life is not built on what you do occasionally. Your life is built on what you do consistently. What you do when you wake up, what you do when you feel pressure, what you do when you feel tired, what you do when no one's watching. That's what forms your life. And if those rhythms are shaped by urgency, then your life will feel urgent. If those rhythms are shaped by pressure, then your life will feel heavy. If those rhythms are shaped by constant movement, then stillness will feel uncomfortable. So let me explain why this matters so deeply, okay? Because rhythms don't just shape your schedule, they shape your nervous system. They shape how your body experiences life. They shape how your mind processes pressure. They shape what feels normal to you. And guys, over time, your rhythms become your reality. If your rhythm is constant urgency, then guess what? You're going to feel anxious even when nothing is wrong. If your rhythm is constant movement, then you're going to feel restless when you try to slow down. If your rhythm is constant production, you're going to feel guilty every time that you take a rest. And this is why so many leaders struggle, not because they don't want peace, but because their rhythms are wired for pressure. Okay. So here's something that you need to hear clearly. Okay. You cannot outwork your poor rhythms. You cannot out discipline your rhythms. You can't out hustle them because your rhythms are what shape your baseline. They determine what feels normal. And if your normal, your quote unquote normal is pressure, then peace will feel unfamiliar. And anything unfamiliar, your body will naturally resist. And that's why slowing down feels so hard for people. not because they don't want it, but because our lives have been trained to move faster. And guys, the reality is breaking that pattern requires intentional change. So let's talk about something, and this may seem subtle, but I can promise you it's powerful. No one wakes up one day and says, I want to live a life of constant pressure. It happens slowly, one commitment, one opportunity, one responsibility at a time. And each one by itself seems reasonable. But over time, guys, we forget that they start stacking on top of one another. And before you realize it, your life is full, your margin's gone, and your baseline has now shifted. Now your normal is busy, full, constantly moving. And because it happened gradually, you don't even question it. You just adapt to it until one day your body, your mind, or your emotions force you to stop. So let's take a moment and I want to help you reframe something, okay? Most people think if I can just get everything done, then I'll feel peace. But that's, friend, not how it works because there will always be more to do. There will always be another task, another message, another responsibility. So if peace is on the other side of completion, you'll never reach it because completion, guys, if you haven't figured it out by now, it never comes. Soon as Easter is over, you're planning for the next one. Soon as the Christmas thing is over, you're planning for the next one. As soon as the yearly conferences are done, you're thinking about the next one. Guys, you have to be intentional and peace has to be built into your life, not postponed until later. And that's where rhythms come in. Now, let me pause here for just a second because I want to tell you, because some of you that are listening to this, you're not just trying to fix your life, you're trying to build something meaningful. And I want to introduce you to our Long Path Creator Academy. Many of you have a message, a business, a platform, but if you build it with wrong rhythms, you will succeed externally and struggle internally. And I've seen this happen, guys, over and over again. And unfortunately, I've seen it happen in my own life many times. And that's why I created Long Path Creator Academy, was to help you build something that actually lasts without losing your life in the process. So, guys, I understand how this life goes because your message matters, but it needs structure, it needs clarity, it needs sustainability, not hustle, not burnout. So, guys, if that resonates with you and you want to learn how to steward your message and build something significant online, guys, you can learn more if you go to markcasto.co/inner circle. It's markcasto.co/inner dash circle. Go check it out, guys. Start building something now. Listen to me. Everything's moving to the online space. So start building something now that supports your life instead of draining it. Okay. Let's jump back into the teaching here. Okay. If your current rhythms are producing pressure, then what does it look like to change them? Guys, it starts with one simple idea. Friend, you don't drift into a healthy life. You choose it intentionally, repeatedly, in the face of pressure, in the face of urgency, in the face of expectation. Because if you don't choose it, you will default to the faster system every time. And this is where people get stuck. They want change, but they don't build structure for the change. They want peace, but they don't build rhythms to sustain peace. People want rest, but they don't do anything to protect it. And without the protecting of your calendar and your rest, it disappears every single time. But here's the good news. You don't need to change everything at once. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to start with one rhythm. Because here's what I've learned over the years. Small, consistent changes create massive transformation over time. Now, I'm not talking about dramatic moments. I'm talking about daily decisions repeated over and over again. And this is where hope comes in because this is actually possible. Not easy, listen to me, but possible. And you don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to start. Now, let's jump into this and get super, super practical here, okay? Because everything we've talked about up until this point only matters if it shows up in your actual life, not in theory, not in intention, but in what you do tomorrow morning, in how you respond to the pressure this week. It's in the way that you structure your life moving forward. So I'm going to give you a few rhythms. These are not rules, these are not rigid systems. They're invitations and starting points, things that you can begin to implement that I believe can radically shift your life over time. Not overnight, but over time in a real sustainable way. So, we're going to call rhythm number one the daily return. Okay. This is the most important one. Before you check your phone, before you step into responsibilities, before you respond to anyone else, you need to take a moment to return. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's it. That's all the time it takes. And in that time, you're not producing, you're not planning, you're not performing, you're just being still. And I know that when I say that, for some of you, that feels really uncomfortable because your normal is movement. Okay. Your normal is urgency. Your normal is starting your day reacting. But this rhythm changes everything because it reorients you. Instead of starting your day from pressure, you start your day in the presence of Abba. And what happens in that moment is instead of reacting, you are anchoring yourself in the presence of God. And friend, that small shift begins to change how you move the rest of your day. Secondly, rhythm number two, protected presence. Okay. This one's simple, another simple one, but it's really powerful. There needs to be time in your life that is not available to the outside world, time that is protected, time that is not interrupted, time where your attention is fully present. And for some of you, this is dinner. For others, it's evenings. For others, it's specific blocks during the week. But whatever it is, it has to be intentional because if it's not protected, it's going to be consumed like everything else. And I'm telling you, it'll happen every time. So let me say this clearly. Your family does not need more of your time. They need more of you being present. And being present is something that many of you, I need you to hear this, you need to fight for it. You need to submit your thoughts and submit your mind and say, my family needs me to be present. Okay. Rhythm number three, margin. Okay. This is where most people, especially high functioning leaders, struggle. Okay. Because everything in your life is pushing against it. Okay. Margin. What do I mean when I say that? Space in your schedule, room to breathe, room to think, room to recover. Most leaders do not have margin. Their lives are packed full of things, back to back commitments, constant movement, no space in between. And over time, that catches up with you because your soul needs space, your mind needs space, your relationships need space. And without it, everything starts to feel heavy. Margin, and I need you leaders to hear me say this, is not laziness. It's wisdom. It's the difference between you surviving your life and you actually enjoying it. Okay. Rhythm number four, the weekly reset. Guys, this one is another simple one, but incredibly important. Okay. Once a week, I want you to pause and I want you to ask a question. How am I actually doing? Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about your results, not your productivity, you. How do you feel? You need to be asking yourself these questions. How do I feel? What am I carrying? Okay? What am I where am I overwhelmed? Another one would be where am I disconnected? And guys, if you never check in, you'll just continue to drift further and further away from the life that you want. And drift doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal until one day you realize how far gone you are in the drifting. So, what this does is this is a rhythm that keeps you grounded, keeps you aware, keeps you connected to your life. Okay. Rhythm number five, be intentional about boundaries. This is where things get real because this is where you start saying no. Not everything deserves access to you. Not every opportunity is yours to take. Not every request requires a yes. And guys, I know this is very hard, especially if you're a leader, especially if you care about people, especially if you're used to being needed. But here's the truth: every yes has a cost. And if you don't choose your yeses carefully, your life will be filled with things that pull you away from what actually matters. And I want to say this, I want you to write this down. Boundaries are not selfish, they are necessary. So let's bring all of this together. You don't need to implement all of this at once. In fact, you shouldn't, okay? Because that would just become another form of pressure. All I want you to do is start with one rhythm, one intentional shift. Maybe it's 5 minutes in the morning. Maybe it's protecting one moment in your day. Maybe it's creating a little space in your schedule. But you got to start somewhere and then build slowly, consistently, because this is not about perfection, it's about direction. So I want to just kind of piece this all together, bring it all together before I let you go, okay? Because this isn't just about productivity. It's really not even about time management. This is about your life, the quality of it, the sustainability of it, the direction of it. Because if you don't address these things, something will eventually give. And here's what most people don't realize: it's usually not your work that breaks first, it's your inner life, your peace, your clarity, your joy. And then if it goes unchecked long enough, it starts affecting everything else: your relationships, your health, your ability to be present. And this is how people slowly lose themselves, not all at once, but over time, through patterns that were never challenged, through rhythms that were never rebuilt, through a pace that was never questioned. So let me say something to you, and I want to be honest with you because you deserve honesty. If you don't change your rhythms, your future will look a lot like your present. But here's the reality: if you're overwhelmed right now, you don't address these issues, guess what? It's just going to get more intense, more responsibility, more pressure, more weight. And this is the reality, because if you're a leader, your life doesn't naturally get lighter, it actually gets heavier. More people depend on you, more opportunities come your way, more decisions are required. And if your foundation isn't strong, that weight will crush you. Not immediately, but eventually. And that's why this matters now, not later, now. Because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to change. But guys, you know I'm a good news guy. Here's the good news: you don't have to keep living this way. You don't have to stay stuck in this same old cycle. You don't have to keep managing exhaustion. Instead of, um, many of you are managing exhaustion instead of actually changing your life. And guys, the good news is you can choose a different way. And the reality is, in your choosing and in this time of transformation, you're not going to get it all right, and you're not going to do it perfectly, at least not all at once. But if you're going to change, you have to do it intentionally, one rhythm at a time, one decision at a time, one shift at a time. And over time, those small shifts will create a completely different life, a life where you're not constantly rushing, you're not constantly reacting, you're not constantly caring more than you should, a life where you're present, you're clear, you're at peace. Not because everything's perfect, but because your life is actually aligned. So let me bring this back to something really simple, okay? I don't want you to live the rest of your life trying to escape your life. You need to rebuild it, because the life that you want, the peace that you're looking for, the clarity that you desire, it will never come from occasional rest. It comes from a daily rhythm. What you do every day, how you live every day, what you protect every day, that's what shapes your life. Now, listen, before we close, I want to talk to you about something. I want to speak to those of you who feel this deeply, okay? I want to share this with you. If this message is helping you, if you know there are leaders who need this, I want to invite you to be a part of building this, okay? The Shepherd's Tent is not just a podcast, it's a place for the restoration of leaders, a place where people can step out of the pressure and rediscover a way of living that actually sustains them. And messages like this only spread when people decide they matter. So if you feel led, I want to encourage you to partner with us. You can go to markcasto.co/donate. Okay. I'm going to bring something up on the screen for those of you that are watching this. We just launched a brand new community for our partners. There have been so many people that have supported us for years and have continued that support throughout all of our different transitions and as we've navigated different things and truly being a man and a woman and a family led by the wind. Okay. But we launched this for our faithful partners, and I wanted to bring it to you that we've launched the Shepherd's Tent Partners community. And it's our way of saying thank you to those who sow faithfully into this ministry. Now, what makes somebody a partner of our ministry? It's anybody who makes any recurring gift of any amount. That's what makes you a partner. Is if you say, Mark, all I can do is $1, $3, $5. Maybe you're able to do $100. We have some partners that do more. But any of you that sign up at markcasto.co/donate and sign up for a recurring gift of any amount, you become a partner of this ministry and you get access to this brand new Shepherd's Tent partner community. You're going to get to connect with other like-minded believers walking the same path. You're going to get an access to a growing sermon library to feed your spirit anytime. We're also doing special online events that you will only learn about through this community. And then we do a monthly vision and Q&A call with me personally, where I'm sharing with you what we're working on, giving you a behind the scenes look at our ministry and what we're doing, and also take the time to see your face on a call and take questions and us talk through really important things. So I appreciate those of you that have given to us and our partners already. If you have not gotten access to this, make sure you reach out to us. Also, if you're on the fence and you say, Mark, I really want to help support the ministry, well, this is a way that we want to turn around and bless you. So we encourage you, go to markcasto.co/donate, become a partner, and you'll shortly get an email once we see that gift is set up, and we'll send you access to this community. And the beautiful thing about partners and recurring gifts is when we know how much resources are coming into the ministry, that shows us how to plan months in advance. So for all of you that are partners, I just want to say to you from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so very much. Okay. You're helping us reach more leaders who are carrying more than they were meant to carry. And that's the truth. So let me leave you with something to sit with. Okay. Not something to rush past, but something to actually consider. What rhythm is shaping your life right now? Not what you say your rhythm is, not what you want it to be, but what your life actually reflects. Are you living at a pace that produces peace? Or are you living at a pace that constantly produces pressure? And if you're honest, what would change? Not everything, just the next step, just the first shift, just the one thing you can begin today. And guys, if this episode resonated with you, don't just move on. Reach out, guys. Message me on Facebook. You can email me at mark@markcasto.co, or you can find me on Instagram at markcasto_. That's MARKCASTO_. Guys, I love reading your stories, your testimonies. I love when you guys reach out, because here's the reality. You don't have to figure this out on your own, because you're not the only one navigating these situations. Also, I wanted to say this to you. If you want to go deeper in this journey, I wrote a book called The Shepherd's Tent. This is a quick read. It's just a little under 100 pages, and we call it The Shepherd's Tent. It's where I unpack all of this more fully, what it looks like to step out of the pressure of ministry, performance, and legalistic Christianity and into a life that's rooted in rest and identity and sustainable rhythms. So, guys, again, I just want to thank you for being a part of this. This is the Shepherd's Tent, a place for weary leaders to remember who they are. God bless you.